Welcome, everyone. The time is 6:30, and I would like to call this District 204 Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Marilyn, can you please call roll?
Member Alvarez.
Present.
Member Vita Daniels. Present. Member Kazelka Campbell.
Here.
Member Dillon. Here. Member Giannotti Fry.
Present.
Member Kennedy.
Present.
Member Lopez.
Here.
All right, I ask all to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we begin our formal meeting tonight, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the loss of LT teacher Ray Bertner, who passed away unexpectedly earlier today. Ray was a wonderful friend and inspiring teacher to so many, and he will be missed by the entire LT community.
Ray began his career at LT in 2005 and was a dedicated educator, but more importantly, a colleague and a friend to so many. He taught in both our special education and our science departments. He also served as a class sponsor during his career here. And I would just encourage our school community to keep Ray's children, Wolfgang and Greta, and all of his family and friends in our thoughts during this difficult time.
We're heartbroken for everyone who loved Ray, and one of the things that makes our community so special is how we care for each other in times of need. To that end, I ask that we take a moment of silence to hold Ray and his family in our hearts. Thank you. Our next item is public participation. Marilyn, do we have anyone signed up for tonight's first public comment session?
No.
Okay. Our first item is our first Spain.
Thank you, President Alvarez. In your board packet, you will find a draft of the 2026-2027 new course proposals, which is being presented tonight as its first reading. To begin, we follow a very detailed process that I would like to describe so that everyone has an understanding of how thoughtfully we approach this process. If you can see, there is a visual of the flow chart which shows the course proposal process. This process starts with the concept phase in which members of a division explore and develop ideas for course proposals to improve our offerings and programming for our students. These proposals then move into a submission phase that includes multiple levels of review that includes voice and feedback from division chairs, the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and two particular teams, first CSD and finally CLT. The CSD team review is the process by which a representative team from all divisions are represented to hear the finalized proposal by departments. During this time, clarifying questions are asked, opposing points of view are discussed, and ultimately, each member of CSD votes on the approval or denial of each proposal. Courses approved by CSD are then brought to the central office team, which is called CLT, for a final team review prior to the board's first reading. For the 2026-2027 school year, 26 course proposals were approved by the CSD team. After a final review by the central leadership team, 25 of those proposals will be presented tonight, with one proposal being denied. I've decided to talk through these proposals by type rather than by division. We will first start with course name change proposals, then we'll move to level changes, then we will talk about drop proposals, and finally we will discuss new course proposals. Before I walk you through each proposal by category, are there any questions about the process?
I love the diagram.
Okay, you ready?
We're ready.
All right, here we go.
A lot.
Okay, so to start, there are 5 name change proposals. I'm going to start with the Applied Tech Department, which is in Global Studies. This proposal is to change Intro to Furniture Making into Intro to Woodworking. The name felt a little misleading, and we wanted students to have greater clarity on the course's focus. And so if you just want examples of the types of projects that students would engage in, it's key shelves and maple cutting boards and step stools, and so you can see how that would be a little misleading to students. And so that is the case for both our furniture making 1 and 2 courses. Okay, so the second proposal also comes from Global Studies, and this proposal is to change home maintenance and construction. We are modifying the language to better highlight the construction and trades-based concepts that are covered within the course. Units would focus on basic shop safety, power tool safety, demolition, and framing. And so again, we just wanted to create a bit more clarity so that students would have a greater idea of what they would experience in the course. And so now I'm going to move on to the Language Arts Division. We are proposing a course name change to journalism to provide better clarity to students. Additionally, our team has noticed that enrollment numbers were steadily declining under the journalistic writing course title, and the team was very concerned about that because that course is a prerequisite to the Lion, and so we want to make sure that that's something we keep running, and so we thought having a more clarified title would hopefully alleviate that concern. The second proposal is to change the course name to Theater Improvisational Comedy, simply because there's no miming.
It's a lost art.
Sorry to disappoint you. However, the team does feel really good about the fact that they found ways to incorporate such activities across different courses, but it's just a bit misleading. In the Special Education Division, we have adaptive course name changes in which we are proposing Life Physical Education course would be changed to Adaptive PE. Art applications would be changed to Adaptive Art. Culinary arts applications would change to Adaptive Culinary Arts. Music applications would change to Adaptive Music. Applied Tech applications would change to Adaptive Applied Tech. The current proposal honestly has a lot to do with aligning to industry language, and adaptive is well more broadly used. And it does a better job of capturing the fact that these courses are designed specifically to fit the unique needs of students with disabilities. And so it's obviously a more universal term. And you can see in the actual proposal the long list of districts that use such language. So those are our name change proposals. Are there any questions or comments about any of those?
I think they make a lot of sense, definitely. So I follow your logic. Appreciate that.
The only couple questions I have is the curriculum to these courses and the alignment to the state course codes is not changing, is that right?
No, there's no curriculum change that's happening, and that's the reason I thought it could be a better approach to talk about these by type, because I hazard to guess we would have longer discussions as we move into like new course proposals or potentially drop proposals. These are simply just adding more clarity to our APG.
Okay, that makes sense. And then do you also think that the name changes will also be more in line with what colleges and trade schools are will they interpret these more easily to better understand what our kids are doing in these classes, I guess, as well?
So it's a no-brainer when it comes to like our adaptive courses, because that is for sure more widely used. But when it comes to our other courses, I think it's really a flip of the hat, honestly. What we depend on is having a lot of clarity in our course descriptions when it comes to our APG, because that's what our school partners really look to, because there's just so much individuality, of course, across different districts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the partners that you're talking about are college counselors.
College.
They're reviewing those APG.
Colleges,
trade schools are reviewing those, our APG, and interpreting those. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
As well as our school profile, but for when it comes to course descriptions, for sure our APG.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right.
Okay, So now I'm going to move on to our second category, which speaks to level changes. Within some of these level change proposals, you will see that there is some name change tweaking, but the core of the proposal really lies within level changes. So we'll start with the special education division. In the special education division, the proposal is to change the reading course grading from letter grade to credit, no credit. This is an intervention course that students are recommended for due to identified deficits in the area of reading. This class is designed to be tailor-made for students' specific needs through analyzing results of carefully selected assessments. Students have a wide range of needs. Therefore, students' individual IEP goals are the focus for setting instructional targets rather than a standardized grading system. And therefore, this brings on the need for more progress monitoring, which is very much so individualized. And students' progress is reflected in their movement towards those individualized goals rather than course grades. And so through a lot of discussion, because as you know, I had to do a lot of learning to catch up because I missed this whole process. And I've had great conversations with Dr. Moore in which she explained very plainly that using course grades has been very difficult for parents because we have our concepts of what letter grades mean, and then as we see students who are struggling and they are also progressing based on their individualized goals, there was a lot of misleading conversation and understanding, and one of our hallmarks is that grading should communicate clearly to our parents and our community members. So that was the impetus for this specific proposal.
Since you paused, I do have some questions about that one. First of all, can general education students take this, or this is strictly for students with IEPs?
This is for students with
Just with
IEPs.
IEPs, okay. And then obviously this will be reflected in our APG, am I saying it right? APG?
That's right, yep.
But will there be discussions with students and families at the IEP table to make sure that they understand that this is for credit but not for grade? And then if they had their IEP meeting before this has been approved, will we double back and make sure that those parents and families know that there will be a change in the grade
Absolutely,
policy?
and I would even add on to that statement that this is where the conversation started. Because
Okay.
in IEP meetings, you're constantly talking about students' individual progress, and so there is sometimes frustration when a student is receiving a letter grade, maybe it's an A,
Yeah.
and that student still has very clear struggles, but that does not speak to that student's effort towards their individualized growth.
Right.
Yeah.
I get the rationale for sure. It makes sense. I just want to make sure that our families are also clearly
Absolutely.
aware of that too. So that's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The next proposal comes from Fine Arts. In the Fine Arts Division, the team is super proud of this proposal because it supports heritage speakers the way they deserve. We propose that the Level 2 Heritage Speakers courses be offered as an honors course. This is because in the heritage classes, students have the option to take the course as dual credit, which is in partnership with College of DuPage. Even if students do not choose to participate in the dual credit option, they will still complete college level work in these honors courses. This ensures a high standard of academic rigor and prepares students for higher education. We are also proposing a fourth year of Heritage entitled AP Spanish for Heritage Speakers, Literature and Culture. In the previous Heritage levels, Heritage students received a sneak peek of Hispanic literature, but a fourth year would allow for a more in-depth analysis of these works. And one thing that the team is really proud of is very plainly, students who are in this specific track, students who are heritage speakers, they often miss the opportunity to have that AP experience. And so Jerry James and his team are super excited about this opportunity, and they feel like it's been a long time coming. And so that just speaks to how happy they are with this proposal.
I have questions, but I'm waiting in case anybody else wants to go first. I'm sorry, this is all stuff that I really appreciate. So the AP course, I assume that will then get approved, if it's approved at the table here by college boards so that they can qualify. Do we know if there's any concerns with that, or is this pretty standard that once we develop this framework, they're going to accept it?
No, there are no concerns. It's already a College Board approved course, and so we're simply just adding it to our offerings.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for teacher training for these courses, will they be given the opportunity to do Advanced Placement Summer Institute so that they can better learn the instructional practices of teaching this, or do we feel like they're already well-versed in the curriculum to be able to teach it?
Yeah, it's best practice, and it's always recommended that teachers take advantage of that opportunity, but these are also teachers who are currently teaching our AP Spanish literature and language course, so if they aren't able, we don't have any concerns about that.
Okay.
And it's just a very well-established established course already.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This next proposal is also from the Fine Arts Division. We are proposing a change for the music course, Advanced Vocal Techniques, from a Level 3 course to a Level 4 course. After looking at the majority of capstone level courses in the arts, we realized that this is the only course offered as a capstone that is not Level 4. So this is us simply cleaning up our APG and making sure that students are receiving the credit that they should for such a course. The next proposal comes from the Language Arts Division. We are proposing to expand this offering to all grade levels. We are a split campus. Students love creative writing 1 and 2. It has always been a junior-senior elective. Now that we've made some curriculum changes, freshmen have expressed interest to do more writing. Freshmen have expressed interest, I'll say that 5 times, to do more writing. And then, just speaking to our school culture, the Menagerie magazine, most of the submissions come from the creative writing course, and so it would bring a little levity to those submissions, because freshmen and sophomore students don't necessarily have that opportunity because they don't currently have a creative writing course.
That's great.
And then we just thought it was appropriate to make sure that it was at the Excel level, because it's at the Excel level here at the North Campus. The next division is science. In science, we are proposing to rename Intro to Healthcare Careers to Survey of Healthcare Careers. This course is offered at both campuses and will serve as the 3rd course in the healthcare pathway. We are developing at LT. This class will allow students to explore the opportunities available to them in the healthcare field. The teacher will also explore the different types of programs offered to students, from 2-year programs to medical school, as well as learn about the direct admit programs being offered at several universities. And also they speak to workforce shortages, and think that this would be a great opportunity to help students explore.
Sorry.
Can I ask a question? Go ahead.
Nope.
So, name changes, I understand, but can you talk a little bit about the changing of the credit hours and what took place there to move the needle on those?
Yeah, this, I do not have information on why we're moving from 1 to 0.5 credits, just in reading the course proposals, but I would for sure go back to the team and get more information. But my understanding was, because it is more exploratory, and it's more of a survey course that they are proposing, that would be my initial thought, but I will happily go back and find more information.
Thank you.
That was my question too. So just want to make sure that they're not missing anything with the change in the semester versus the year.
Yes, I will go back and ask those questions.
So it's a semester course then, right? Not
Right?
a- not a
That's
full year.
the change would be from a
The
semester.
credit is changing
The
from
credit
1
is
full credit to 0.5 credits.
Okay, but then is the course itself, the length of it for a semester or for 2? You were-
No,
do you know?
on the course proposal, proposal, the length did not alter.
Change, okay.
Yeah, and so that's why my thought was it had to do with the exploration and the fact that it was a survey course. But I can definitely clarify and correct
Yeah.
that answer if I need to.
Yeah.
To know a little bit more, just to make sure how that might impact them being able to get enough credits, and
Specifically,
changing
the
their
move
course
from one
loads.
to half a credit, yeah.
Yeah.
And how does that work? And this might be more of a, how does that work for kids that have already taken that class? They get the 1 hour.
Right.
Like that, we're not going to have a senior that's going to come up short because of something changed. Yeah.
Typically, if a course moves to a half a credit, it's a semester instead of a year. I'm not aware of any courses that we run that are half a credit. That would be a full year.
Yeah.
I think the thought is pairing these into a full year of a survey plus the terminology for students and getting that information, getting that whole year. But it's certainly students who've already taken it and received the full credit nothing would change on their transcript.
Right. Just don't want it, again, make it harder for them to get
Right.
what they need by having to overwhelm themselves with a higher course load to be able to work this in, so.
We could confirm that. We're
Thanks.
99% sure
Yeah.
that's accurate,
Yeah,
but
if
we can
just come
confirm it.
back to
I'm
that.
sure Dr. Owens is right, but I will for sure.
I don't want to.
No, I
Overcomes that,
don't. That's why we do a first read.
And so you'll see a very similar proposal. We are proposing a course name change from medical terminology to intro to healthcare to a 0.5 credit offering. This course is offered at South and would serve as the first course in the healthcare pathway. We are developing at LT. And so this same question applies to
Yep.
this proposal.
For all of them?
Yes.
Perfect.
And I will actually say that this is the same for this next proposal, which is a course name change from medical terminology to biomedical terminology. Our next course proposal, this still comes from the science division, is a level change for the physics course from prep to Excel. This is part of the revamped pathway for physics students. Offering various levels of physics for our students allows them to engage with physics principles in a variety of ways, as well as hone in on what type of physics might be relevant to them in their future career. This course will be a survey of physics topics and will mimic and elevate the current physics prep course. The difference between Excel and Honors will be the pacing and mathematical applications used in class. This course is intended for students not interested in the STEM field. Our curriculum review team mapped out this pathway as an avenue to garner increased interest and provide a variety of engaging options for all LT students. Offering accelerated physics provides students with a survey course that combines hands-on lab experiences and mathematical modeling to explore physics phenomena while earning accelerated credit. So this is our Physics 1 course, and the proposal is, it's currently at the prep level, and the proposal is for it to exist in the Excel level.
My only thing is, my daughter would have told you last year she would have loved to have had this option because she was in AP Physics and it was really difficult. But I love that we're doing this. I guess my only question on this was, if we're going to change that to Excel, are we still going to have a prep option?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is actually one of the proposals in the last section, new course proposal.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's the physics?
Applied physics.
Applied physics, okay. All right, I just want to make sure that we still have that option for students that want that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we are proposing to change the course offering of the STEM level course from level 4 to a combined level 4 and 5. In this class, students complete a research project in the field of science and engineering. Some students choose to pursue additional extensive research projects in collaboration with national laboratories and submit their work to state competitions and for publication. This proposal will provide students the opportunity to receive credit that reflects the level and depth of their research endeavors. This proposal was teacher-initiated based on student work and interest. The discrepancy between students doing additional projects and students completing one project is driving the need for change. Finally, we are proposing to raise the level of organic chemistry from Excel to Honors due to the difficulty of the course, change needed due to the current leveling of science courses and comparative difficulty of organic chemistry. So no curriculum change, but just honoring the work that students are experiencing.
Sorry, everybody. Just one more question, just about the overarching, that whole section of classes that we're increasing the rigor. Is there any need to prepare students this year for that increased rigor for next year? So if I'm taking let's say a biology class and now I'm going into organic chemistry or something with an increased amount of rigor, do we see that there'll be any gaps in curriculum or instruction that we'll need to address this year? Or do you feel that the current sequencing of courses they'll naturally adapt to the increased rigor?
And I would actually say that students are not experiencing a change in programming.
Okay.
These are the existing courses. Teachers have felt that they are just inappropriately leveled.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
students have been experiencing the
Same level.
sequence. Yeah.
Okay. Good, that's helpful.
So with that, and kind of going piggyback, same question, what about students that have, in school that have gone through that? Will they then get an honors level course notated for them going forward since?
So you can't retroactively change
Okay.
students' transcripts, unfortunately.
Don't tell her.
Nope. Sure. I heard all that.
Any other questions about the 10 level and name change proposals? Okay. Now I will move forward to 2 drop course proposals. The first one comes from the Language Arts Division. We are proposing to drop the Introduction to Theater course. We have not run this class in 5 years due to low enrollment. Currently, there's no interest in a non-performative acting class. Elements of the content can and will be infused in the acting classes instead. This will ultimately help us clean up our academic program guide, which we need to do. And so that is the reasoning for this proposal. The second drop proposal comes from the Student Services Division. Our Student Services Division has made significant strides to ensure that we are holding true to our goal to reduce the opportunity gap and ensure that all students are provided a rigorous academic experience within general education settings to the maximum extent possible and to set students up for post-secondary success. I'm actually going to turn this portion of the presentation over to Dr. Owens, who has worked hard with Mr. Drew Eder and other members of the division on this specific proposal.
Thanks, Dr. Payne. So this proposal has a couple parts to it. The first you see is to merge a couple different options we had for students for, I'll call it kind of supported study classes. So we had something called Skills for Success that was divided for students who had 504 plans and then students who were in the alternative program and then interdisciplinary workshop. That title for that course is a holdover from prior to my time here at LT. There was a specific grant, I think, provided, and there was some resource support added for some students, and that name just kind of held. So what we want to do is just create one Skills for Success course that any student who needs executive functioning support, a guided study, who wants to take that as an elective can take that class. And recommendations for that class will still come for students who have specific 504 plans and need supports. Also through our SST teams when they are working on problem solving for students and see the need that class might help a student. But instead of having different options and different types of Skills for Success, we just want to merge that all into one clear Skills for Success class that would be available for 9th through 12th grade students to take if they so choose. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is we've seen significant changes to what we always called our our alternative program here at LT. And again, that's a program that predates my time here at LT and has taken there have been different iterations based on the needs of students, but it's always been a way where staff have tried to figure out a myriad of supports for students who are having a tough time either academically, socially, and emotionally, both of those things, difficulties potentially at home. And so that has taken turns over the years, and the more we looked at it and the more we added supports to our offerings from Tier 1 through Tier 3, the need for that specific program, if you will, has declined significantly. We also feel like every student deserves to have a rigorous academic experience with their peers, and we felt like that kind of isolation into a program for academics versus supporting students within their gen ed environment was not serving our students to the best that we could. So it's really been kind of a confluence of having so many more supports, our additional counselors, our additional social workers, psychologists, our bilingual coordinator, our multilingual expansion, our co-taught special ed classes, our freshman skills for success study hall. All those things have allowed us to be able to better serve students without having to remove them from specific academic classes. And so we've seen just an attrition of that program, and so this really doesn't impact any students who are in the program. We don't have any students that are in the program in that way any longer, and so we do want to remove those academic courses from the program guide and kind of sunset that program as it had historically been situated here. There was a lot of predictability of the students that were in that program, and that was not something that we wanted to continue. It didn't serve our equity lens for students and our desire to have students in rigorous experiences that will prepare them best for their post-secondary options. So I'm happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of information in this proposal, a lot of historical information, a lot of information of how we got to this decision, lots of conversations. We have a very dedicated staff that were assigned to those courses over the years who felt very passionately about the students they were supporting, and we are very thankful to them for that support of our students. But again, just as things evolve and as we know better how to serve students better, we want to provide better options.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
That's a lot, no. So,
I do appreciate that we have come a long way in the supports that we've been able to provide for students. I think that's huge, and I think that has obviously a direct impact on what you guys are proposing here today. I see the labor of love from the staff, and I can 100% appreciate that, but I do love the idea of, at least me personally, we're getting our kids pushing into more classes, we're increasing rigor, we're making sure that they're getting the high school experience that they need while still giving them the supports that they deserve as well. So I think I'm sure it was a very hard decision and over time to make, but at least from my lens and what I'm reading and seeing, it's for our students' best interest. So.
thanks. Yeah, I think it's incredible. I think my only question too is that, was there anything, I mean, I feel that this now more accurately reflects what we're doing for our students, what you all have been doing and been pushing for quite some time. Is there anything that, to make this happen, that we still have missing, or that we might still need to think about, or that we may be bringing to the table at a later time to be able to fully make this come to fruition?
No, I appreciate that question, and President Alvarez, I appreciate the acknowledgement of the sort of labor of love, and it definitely was. There were some tough conversations, and I really do appreciate our staff for engaging in those, and we know when you work in a certain area, you are emotionally attached to that, and you feel very strongly about your students. I appreciate that. Carrie, to your point, we really are able to move forward with this feeling very good about the supports we're able to provide our students, and that, like I said, the kind of attrition we already saw in the program, because students were getting supports elsewhere, there's no student that will go without support because of this, so we feel like we're in a good spot. That doesn't mean our work doesn't continue and always trying to problem solve for students, and I'll say that the areas that we continue to work on are really specifically our attendance always impacts student achievement here at school, and our restorative intervention intervention practices are really helping to ensure that students feel like they can get support that they need in that area, and those were areas within our alternative program that were certainly priorities. So I think, honestly, I feel like we're in a really good spot, which is why we can even bring this forward at this time. And again, I'll say thanks to the support of the board for, the list is in here. It's quite an impressive list of the things we've been able to accomplish and put into place. And without that, we wouldn't be here with this proposal. So we're just really fortunate for that support that we've received from all of you.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for all the reference documentation. It was a lot to go through, but so appreciative of it. Thank you.
It felt necessary, just given that I know it does feel like a massive shift for many, and again, to make sure that we weren't leaving anything unturned that we were missing and that students wouldn't be left out in some way, shape, or form. So, like I said, we feel really good. I, again, just want to thank Drew Eater, worked really hard on this with me, and as well as all of the staff that were included in the program. So it's been a few years coming, and it feels really good to be able to present this.
Great.
Such good work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Owens.
Thank you.
Now we're going to enter our final category, which is new course proposals. Tonight I will propose 8 new courses. We will start with the Special Education Division. We are proposing a new course entitled Post-Secondary Exploration. This is a resource-type class offered to 11th and 12th grade students. This will be a semester-long class that students can retake. We've identified gaps in transition planning for our students, particularly for families who are not exploring college post-secondary options. We want to imagine a scope and sequence that makes this process more robust to support families in identifying goals for their children post-high school and to arm families with options, because navigating agencies can be pretty difficult. The course will result in individualized transition planning, creating a portfolio of next steps so that when students leave high school, they're ready to go. Our case managers at North Campus, when this idea came about, they recommended like 75 to 100% of their students, and thought that it would be beneficial to students to have this type of an experience. So it's just really important to us that our students have options when they leave high school. And so that is the post-secondary exploration course proposal.
I'll just say I love the idea of the course. I think it's a great one. I really do. It's exciting.
The next proposal comes from the Fine Arts Division. We are proposing Fiber Arts as a new course. This proposal was born from requests from students for a different tactile experience. Right now, we have a lot of students who are enrolled in ceramics, and that's a good thing. But outside of painting and drawing, there weren't many other options, and so Fiber Arts provides an opportunity for students to have another hands-on experience class within the arts. And it takes into consideration the complexities that certain students have when it comes to preferences with textures. Thankfully, we have a very talented teacher on our staff who is a fiber artist, and so this course can be a great bridge to modern art that is based in pop art and current art forms that can be usable within their future.
Huge in Etsy. Huge with Etsy. There's a huge, yeah.
Building a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are also proposing 2 new courses, beginning piano and intermediate piano for all grade levels at both North and South Campus. Our music department went through an independent audit of the course offerings, and it indicated a need for an entry-level music course, which could open doors to a lot of students regardless of their experience and resources. This course would be one of hopefully several levels of class of piano class, allowing students to develop keyboarding skills from a beginning level. Music staff are continually asked at future freshman night if we have a class for piano students or those students who are looking to begin piano. And there are just many students outside the current music offerings who would like to build those skills. So ultimately, this course serves as an on-ramp for students who do not have years of experience playing or learning an instrument. We have 5 new course proposals that come from our science division. The first one, and I am actually going to pair these together. The AP Physics C course proposals are proposing to shift from our currently combined AP Physics C offering, and it's proposing to have a split level course in which we separately offer AP Physics C, Mechanics and Electricity, AP Physics C Mechanics, and then AP Physics C Electricity and Magnetism as separate year-long courses. This is part of the revamped pathway for physics students. Offering various levels of physics for our students allows them to engage with physics principles in a variety of ways. And so while those are 2 separate courses, they currently exist as one course, but the teachers are proposing that students could benefit for a more in-depth exploration of those 2 specific areas of focus.
Well, so will they be picking between one or the other, or they'll get exposure to both, but they just are highlighting those?
Students actually have the choice.
Okay.
So I'm sure our teachers would love for students to take both of the courses, but ultimately they have the choice. Okay.
That's great.
Our next proposal is for ethics in healthcare. Due to robust enrollment in our current healthcare courses, this course was added to address inequities in our current healthcare system and allow students to explore emerging needs in healthcare in this country. This would serve as a second course in the healthcare pathway we are developing at LT, and this is specifically for our 9th and 10th graders at South Campus. This next proposal, I remember I spent the day at LT before I officially started, and there was a lot of excitement around this next proposal, which is zoology. Offering zoology would allow for further engagement in life sciences. We have a teacher with a master's degree in zoology that could allow for an additional dual credit opportunity. Zoology is an opportunity for students to further their scientific knowledge, gain skills in husbandry, and learn about the cyclical relationships between the animal kingdom and our planet. Enrollment data shows we have gaps in student enrollment in their 3rd and 4th years here at LT. And so the thought is the addition of this course could provide more dual credit opportunities, as well as increase the reach of students to continue to explore the sciences. I should also add that the team would like to offer this course also at a variety of levels in which there is an ML accelerated offering as well. And this brings us to our final proposal, which is applied physics for innovation and industries. This speaks to the question you had earlier. The introduction of a preparatory level physics course expands choices for sophomores. This course introduces students to the fundamental concepts of physics through a practical, real-world lens, emphasizing applications relevant to hands-on careers and industries. We aim to expand course offerings at South Campus to better support students of all math abilities. As part of this effort, this course serves as the prep option, providing multiple levels of physics for students to engage with key principles in diverse ways while exploring how physics may relate to their interests and future careers. An added bonus is that it better supports students with all math abilities as well. So, this concludes our 25 course proposals for the 26-27 school year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
One more quick question. In the zoology as well as the fiber arts, you mentioned that there was 2 teachers that really had a background and I'm assuming that if either one or both of those teachers leave, that nothing's going to change with the course or the curriculum or the teaching of it. It just helped get the course on with their, okay.
I mean, and you just started in like July. Did you sleep at all in the summer while you were working and stuff?
I am going to plead the fifth. But this has nothing to do with me. This is the work of our teachers and our division chairs. They've done all the hard work. I just had to try to memorize it.
That's great.
But Carrie, I'm glad you said that, because coming in the
Yeah.
middle of the process, she was able to pick up the
This is a lot.
baton and move it
It's
to
a lot.
this
Yeah.
stage, so.
And we do know that we've got a lot of great players behind the scenes that have been working
Yeah.
hard to make sure this stuff comes to the table, so I really appreciate it. And it's really good stuff. Really great. I'm very excited about a lot of the changes. The name changes would make a ton of sense
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And being able to change remove our alternative program is a huge shift, so I really appreciate the work that you guys put into all that, and to Drew too as well.
I think the only thing I would piggyback on is coming in a new position and making this as organized and, I mean, just all that makes sense. So I appreciate the work that you did, as humble as you're going to be, to put in the work to present this to us today. I will say that the two things that I just kind of highlight with everything that we've gone through here that I really appreciate is, again, we're increasing pathways for kids. I think that's huge, right? Because we sit at these tables because it's not about what we want, it's about what our kids need. And I think there's a real focus on that in the work that you guys did, your teachers did, your division chairs, everyone. And the opportunities for increasing dual credit. We're saving kids thousands and thousands of dollars with every class that we're introducing with an AP option. So I know as someone who has a child in college and one that went through it and paying bills for him and one on the way, I appreciate the work that is being done here. So thank you. Any other? Oh, yeah.
I was just saying, so this will come back to the October 20th meeting.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of follow-up questions that I can simply share with you guys in the weekly update around the credit and stuff, but we can get those to you guys this week.
Sounds good.
Good. Any other questions, concerns? Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Dr. Owens, thank you. Okay. Our next item here is our future facilities funding discussion, specifically our Willow Springs property. So over the past several years, there has been a significant amount of discussion, both by those of us here tonight and others who are no longer at the table, regarding the Willow Springs property. Most recently in June, we offered Pleasantdale, we're happy to have you here this evening, by the way. Thank you for coming. The opportunity to purchase a small parcel, and we also offered Pleasantdale Park District the opportunity to engage in land swap discussions. While those efforts are ongoing, I believe we've reached a point where it's important to once again ask key questions to reaffirm the direction the board wishes to take concerning the Willow Springs property. That being said, first, I think it's an important question to ask is, does the board wish to proceed with exploring the sale of the Willow Springs property in order to fund future facility improvements sometime during the 25-26 school year? Now, we've had that discussion before, but just want to make sure we're still in the same place.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's really exciting with everything we've done to the school to see
Yeah,
that, what we could do.
for sure.
So I think I would agree, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
A lot of nodding heads. Okay, so then ultimately down the road, at some point, we will need to establish a minimum price, approve terms and conditions, and adopt a resolution and complete the steps that are outlined in school code as it relates to school districts' selling of the property. However, before we get to that point, there are a few things or steps that we will need to take in order to continue that process moving forward. For example, we'll want to provide authorization to the administrative team to proceed with updating and completing a property survey and ordering an updated title commitment. Is there an agreement, or is there questions or concerns or conversation that we need to have before we're feeling like we're in a place to authorize that?
Real quickly, I want to introduce Carrie Pipel is here. So James,
Okay,
our
good.
regular attorney, could not be here. He's ill. But Carrie is here, so we appreciate you being here. think this is a good time to introduce her because that question came up around the survey and the title commitment. I think it'd be great if Carrie could speak to like the rationale for why is that an important step for boards to take if they're interested in exploring a sale.
Yeah, so title commitments and surveys are something that a buyer would expect in a sale of this nature and in most real estate sales. So it's something that as we go down this road will be necessary. And I think there's some wisdom in getting those sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Because then they're both informative documents about the property. A title commitment will inform us about any title exceptions on the property, any easements, things like that, so that they can be addressed or so that we know they're out there and a buyer knows they're out there. Surveys as well are very revealing about the boundaries of the property, what the property looks like, easements again. So getting those now, again, we'll know what's in them, and then we'll be able to make them available to interested buyers at the outset.
Obviously, if we go down that road, I would share the cost of that work, with the board ahead of time. But can you speak to just generally what would that probably cost to?
So typically, title commitments really don't cost anything until you actually close on the property. But at the highest end, you're talking $750,000, $1,000 for a title commitment. For a survey for a property of this size,
$750 to $1,000, right? Not $750,000.
Very cheap.
most likely no cost up front is my experience.
Yeah.
A survey for a property of this size, probably a few $1,000s, but certainly an option to get a few quotes and get the
But again, I would bring that to the board. I just wanted Carrie to kind of speak to what that would cost approximately.
That's very good.
Carrie, quick question. Sometimes those documents have an expiration or a time limit associated with them. Are they typically about a year for each?
So title commitments can be updated really at any time, and again, that really isn't a cost, and the issue is really just getting it updated right before a closing. Surveys, sometimes there's an issue with surveys that are over 6 months old, but as long as it's not much older than that, there isn't a huge concern, and usually that can be dealt with through an affidavit or something that's little to no cost.
Great. Thank you.
How long does something like that take generally? Like, how long, if we initiated that and said we wanted to move forward with that, how soon do you think we would have that information back?
Title companies usually say about 7 to 10 business days. That's kind of the wider end, though. I think we get them back usually in a week or two. Surveys, a few weeks.
Good question.
I'm comfortable with that. I think that makes sense to have everything ready to go since we, to do all that we can.
I think this just keeps us moving forward, right?
would
Like
agree.
a lot of these things, I think, are important steps for us to keep the ball rolling in our discussions and communications with potential buyers in the community. Okay. Any other questions or concerns related to potential administrative costs? Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
And I think part of this also lends itself to our discussion that we've had about our communication with other entities. So just to be clear, I feel like there's an agreement on, number one, exploring the sale, 2, authorizing administration to proceed with the initial steps of updating, completing property survey, and ordering the title company or title commitment. So the only a few other topics of discussion for tonight is regarding future communications with the Village of Willow Springs officials. During previous listening sessions with the Village of Willow Springs, the prior board, some of which are still here tonight, emphasized the importance of maintaining open communication with the village. Do we want to continue engaging with the Village of Willow Springs?
I'm in favor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's what we've discussed and we've wanted to be transparent.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
gonna
it's a key thing to do.
Good on that. And then I guess the last thing that we'll want to talk about is any public communication at this stage. So to reiterate, we did send out communication last week, and if everyone's on board continuing down this path, we will make sure that as we take each step, we'll be informing the public as we progress.
Yep, I think that sounds great.
Good?
Yeah.
Anything I'm missing, we're missing, that we want to talk about in relationship to the property?
Just to be as transparent as we can be with it.
Yeah. I think that's great. Okay. Very good. Our next item is the tax levy presentation. Brian Stashak.
Thank you, President Alboris. So just so the board is aware, typically what we do in the October Committee of the Whole meeting, or this time of the year, is we start to look at the upcoming tax levy. And the reason we do it at this time of the year is because any tax levy that we submit for a coming year is due to the county, Cook County, no later than the last Tuesday in December. This is our single largest revenue source in the district. There's no question about that. It is the single largest revenue source in the district. And so we certainly want to make sure that we are abiding by that timeline. The county, if you didn't get something to them by that last Tuesday in December, they have no obligation to extend the tax levy for you. So that's certainly something we don't want to entertain at all. And so really what we do, typically the timeline is such that we'll talk a little bit tonight about the process of the levy, what I go through to get it to where it is what you have in front of you tonight. Then we will come back in November. At the November meeting, we will we'll ask the board to adopt a tentative levy. And then in December, at the December board meeting, we will ask the board, after a public hearing, potentially a public hearing, we'll talk a little bit about that, to adopt that final levy, and then for us to submit that to the county for them to extend that for the tax year of 2025. And so the reason it's going to be tax year 2025 as well is because the county is always 1 year in arrears on property taxes. So anything they extend in the calendar year of 2026 is actually for that 2025 calendar year, okay? So I'm going to be kind of going through some of these items here tonight. If you have a question, please stop me and ask me. I'm more than happy to talk through that with you. So where are we at right now, and how do we get to these documents here? Well, first of all, let me tell you that typically by this time of the year, in October, I would have a completed levy for 2024, right, or the prior year from Cook County. We do not have that yet. You may recognize that by the fact that you do not have the second installment of your property tax bills yet. You've not received those. And so we are waiting for Cook County to complete that process, finish up our final levy documents, and then mail out those tax bills to the property owners within Cook County. There are other topics we can talk about that, but we're not going to go through that tonight. Typically, those are usually done by around August. And then, you would have your tax bill that might be due September 1st or October 1st, somewhere in that timeline. Well, we've completely gone through that. The county's having some issues, and so we'll deal with those as we go. The county did send out a draft report to us back at the end of August. What's interesting about that was in my 24 previous tax levies, I've never seen a change from the draft to the final. Well, this year, they actually have a change to that. And so everything I'm going to talk about tonight is based upon this draft document from the county that we have, and I have submitted here in the board packet. However, I cannot tell you that something won't change between now and when they finally finish this again, okay? So that's when I would bring back any of those changes to the board in November for discussion for the adoption of the tentative levy. So, what is known about the levy right now? Well, if you look at my memo here, what is known is that we are in a tax-capped county in Cook County, and that means that we can only increase our aggregate levy. So, in total, by the CPI, Consumer Price Index, from the December of the prior year. And so in December of 2024, the Consumer Price Index was 2.9%. That's essentially that inflation rate. So we can only increase our total levy from 2024 in 2025 by 2.9%. That is known. So that number we can actually work with. In addition to that, we have to make some educated guesses as well. We have to make educated guesses as to, first of all, what we think the equalized assessed valuation, or EAV, of the community will be, because that plays an important role in setting actually the upcoming tax rate for that 2025 levy. And then in addition to that, we also have to sort of guess at what we think our new property is going to be. And that's important because all of the existing property is subject to that 2.9% increase from the prior year. However, any new property that comes onto the tax rolls for the 2025 year is not subject to that increase. So that comes on, and we want to make sure that we actually levy enough of new property to capture that in the first year. It used to be impossible to obtain those dollars in a future year. It's only, with some change in the law, it's now just pretty difficult to do it. So it's not something that you really want to go through. It's something that we're better off capturing in that first year that it's available to us, and then going forward from there. Any questions at all at this point? Okay. So let me take you through, if you look at the second page of my executive summary there, you see the calculation of the 2025 extension for the operating funds, all right? And so again, in the draft form, our total levy from 2024 in the operating funds was $85.4 million, okay? We multiply that by our 2.9%, that gets us to $87.9 million, $87,867,786. So that's the amount that we can increase that aggregate levy, not including any of the new property for the 2025 levy. Now we're looking at projecting an EAV, equalized assessed valuation, right? So that $4,475 million number with a projected number of new property. Typically what we've done is we've usually put in about $60 million of new property into the levy and levy for that. I don't think we're ever going to get to the $60 million number, but what that does is that covers us for that year. And we're only going to receive taxes, property taxes, on what actually becomes that actual new property amount. So even though we levy for $60 million, if the new property number is only $30 million, that's all we're going to receive the taxes on, right? So it's just essentially putting that number in so that we're covering all of that new property. We bring it out of the tax rolls in that first year, and we levy for it. So now in that second row there, we have this EAV plus the new property number at $4,535 million, right? So now we take our 2025 extension base, which we calculated earlier, the $87.9 million. We divide that by our projected EAV of the $4,475 million, and we come up to a tax rate now of 1.9631. All right? So that becomes our limiting rate. That would be applied to all of the EAV in the community. Then we go back and we take our limiting rate, the 1.9631. We now multiply by the EAV plus the new property, so our $4,535 million number. And that gets us to a total levy, including that $60 million of new property, at $89,045,667. Any questions on that math?
Brian, I'm
Yeah.
sorry if you said this before, but how did we determine projected, I'm going back up, the
Yeah.
projected new property was at 60 million?
Right.
How do we get that figure again?
So the 60 million is real, I don't want to say it's arbitrary,
Okay.
but it's a number that we have
I know
felt
we
comfortable
talked
with in the
about
past.
that, yes, because
so
you
that-
don't want to miss something.
Correct.
obviously.
So-
If we undercut, we wouldn't get anything
Correct.
above that.
Yes.
This is the way.
So the $60 million, we feel comfortable
Okay.
saying, look, that's going to cover us.
Yeah.
We don't know what that number is right now.
right.
And we really won't know that until, well, hopefully August of 2026.
Okay.
So you're putting this document together now, submitting it to the county, and you don't have all the information.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, look, let's be reasonable about that and say $60 million. I don't know that, we haven't had $60 million in new property in many years.
Right.
So probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it covers us so that we capture all of that coming out of the tax rolls in the year of 2025.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. So then what happens is, what we do then is we look at the percentage increases. So that total increase down there for 2025 of the $89,045,000 is a 4.28% increase over the prior year. And so that 4.28%, when we have our public hearing in December, that would be the number that we would advertise in the newspaper to say 4.28% is our total increase, including that $60 million of new property. At the end of the day, if it's $30 million, well, that increase may be 3.5%, something along those lines, right? We won't know that until we get that number. Now, one key factor here that I mentioned is the operating funds. So all of our operating funds, our education fund, O&M, transportation, IMRF, Social Security, all of those funds are included in this. The one fund that is not is the bond and interest fund. The bond and interest fund is pulled out separately because it is a fund that only serves one purpose. We levy money into that fund, the dollars come in, and then out of that fund, we pay back our bond obligations. That's it. Nothing else happens in that particular fund. So what ends up happening then is then we have to go back and we have to add in now that dollar amount for the bond and interest fund. And that would actually bring our total levy to $91,967,620 for the tax year of 2025. And that would be a total of a 4.1% increase over the total of the prior year. Any questions at that point? Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, the tax increase is less than 5%. So if it's less than 5%, we are actually not required to have a truth and taxation hearing, as it's called. Anything 5% and above, you are required by the law to do that. The district has the history of having the truth and taxation hearing anyway, regardless of the increase. And I actually would recommend that in all cases as well, because it brings about, again, the transparency piece of that we are publishing in the newspaper, we are having the public hearing, and we are talking about in the open, people have the opportunity to come in and talk about this and bring any thoughts to the board. And so I would certainly recommend that we follow that process, the truth and taxation hearing, and we would do that at the December board meeting before final adoption. And again, I just give you an example down there in the next paragraph where we kind of talk about, look, if what we know from the 2.9% is that we would look at essentially if $60 million was added of new property to the tax rolls, we would almost have $1.2 million of money on top of what our increase would otherwise be. However, if it was $30 million, you'd have about half of that, about $588,000 would be added to that. And I've already kind of talked about the process for what we go through. Presentation tonight, then I go back and do some more work depending on when the county gets us that final information. November, we adopt a tentative. December, the final. So for tonight's purposes, this is just for information, just to get everybody thinking about what the process is and what this looks like. So if you go on to that proposed 2025 levy document, this is really where you start to see all of these numbers come together. And so everything I just talked about is summarized in this document. So starting up in the upper left-hand corner, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'll just give you the idea here. Our estimated 2024 EAV was $4,459,000,000. We're estimating in 2025 that would be $4,475,000,000 plus $60 million in new property there. We get that total $4,535,000,000 number. Now, if you go over to column F, that has what those estimated, I'm still saying estimated extensions were for 2024. And then what we do is we calculate in the next line what we would be adding to each one of those individual funds for the 2025 levy. Now, one of the things you might look at there and you say, well, in 2024, we added $71,289,000 to the Ed Fund. Why only $70,067,000 in the Ed Fund in a subsequent year? And what I want to point out is that we have increased some of those other funds, but the one that most dramatically has increased, and we're bringing that back up again, is the transportation fund. Last year, we intentionally only levied a little over $1 million in that fund for the purpose of spending down some of the fund balance in that fund. So now we're bringing that number back up. So because we're capped, again, at that, if you look on line 23 in column H, at that $87,867,000 number, we can move those dollars around between the funds, but we can't go higher than that.
They're fixed. Right.
So that's really what we're doing. So I'm really pulling some of that money back out of the education fund, putting it back into the transportation fund. So that's really all that's happening there. We aren't losing any money. It's just simply that we are moving it around, shifting it amongst the funds. Okay?
Brian, if I could, and the work that you do here is always amazing to me, but if, for instance, the transportation fund is a $500,000 light sometime throughout the year, on board approval, you can come to us and we can move money from other funds to take care of that. Because I can't expect you to have everything right all the time.
Yeah.
Something's going to come up. So,
correct.
Okay.
So in a situation like we had last year, if we looked at this and we said, well, look, for some reason, the transportation fund, let's use that, expenses were much higher than what we had originally anticipated. Hopefully they're not. But let's say that happens, right? Then we would come back to the board and say, look, we're going to amend the budget. We're going to move money, both the revenue and the expense, into the fund, and that's how we would handle that process. Kind of like we did last year in the FY24 budget with the, FY25 budget with the medical insurance that we talked about, the issues that we had there. So that's how we would handle that process. Okay? And then again on line 23, you see all of those totals that I talked about. The 2.9% down on line 25 brings us $2,476,000 additional on existing property. And again, the new property jumping back up to line 23, $1,177,000 from $60 million of new property. Again, if new property is $30 million, it'll be about half of that. Will be where we'll be in that ballpark. Okay. Any questions on any of that? And then you see going down to in that column L, there's our total $3,654,000, 4.28% is that number we talked about earlier. The total of $89,045,000, and then the total proposed levy at $91,967,000, including now the bond and interest at the 4.1% increase over the past year. Any questions?
Are we adding the bond interest and all that?
Yes. Okay. The bond and interest gets added back in there on line 28.
Okay.
So the bond and interest fund there at $2,921,000 gets now added back in to that $89,045,000 number above to get us the total of $91,967,620.
Is the bond interest the so in column F, 2.95, and then it goes to 2.92, is that interest rate not fixed? Why did it go down?
No, that's a great question. So what happens is, because this particular fund is outside of the cap, the tax cap, the county adds 4% to that number. They call it a loss and cost factor, meaning that some of your tax bills aren't going to be collected in that current year. And so they don't want the districts to be short in that particular fund. So what ends up happening is, for the 2024 levy extension, I show the true number there, our levy plus the 4%, right? But here, for the $2,921,000, that one does not have the 4% included in there because we don't levy for that. The county adds that number in on the backside of the calculation. Does that make sense?
So next year when you show this, that 2.92 is going to be higher in that F column for us.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be moved over to the column previous to that, and it's going to be roughly 4% higher than the $2,921,953,000.
Good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to be honest, the county does that for all of the funds, but it doesn't matter because, again, if they add 4% to those funds, you still can't get beyond the $87,867,000. Those are capped. This one is not. And that's the only one that additional dollar amount will actually apply to, and then we'll increase that levy by that amount. Okay, just moving on quickly here, I'm giving you, you also can take a look at the 6-year sort of levy history plus the current proposed. And so you can kind of see all of these columns, or I'm sorry, all of these different categories I have in column A, and the percent changes between those years, right? So the equalized assessed value of the community, actually of all of District 204. You can see the percent changes there. By the way, the years in yellow that I have, tax year 2020 and 2023, those are triennial reassessment years for the south side of Cook County. So we will have another triennial assessment in 2026, in tax year 2026. So what the county does is they assess, they call it the triennial. 1 year they do the north side of Cook County, 1 year they do the city of Chicago, then they do the south side. So we will be due in 2026 for another full assessment. That's why those are in yellow. And if you look, what's interesting about those years, if you look at the EAV change in 2020, we were up 15%, and in 2023, we're up almost 30%. Those are the only years you see that sort of an increase. Other years, you typically see either a very small increase, it's flat, or there's even a decrease in those other years. So again, you can kind of follow, there's the new property history that we talked about, what our total tax rate was, the consumer price index, and then what we advertised for the capped funds, advertised for non-capped funds, total, and then all the way through. And so that gives you an idea of what that history looks like, going back all the way to the tax year of 2019. And then finally, here's the next document that I have here is everybody, the questions have always come about that said, well, okay, so if we do implement this levy, what does this kind of look like for homeowners, right? And again, I don't have the accurate 2024 information yet. So in lines really 4 through 17 on this spreadsheet, I can't verify any of this yet. Once I do, I can verify this. And then I can go back and say, yes, this is accurate, and then sort of pull some of that data going forward into the 2025 year. But just to give you an idea, if you look at line 6, assuming these numbers are correct, if you look at line 6 and I take these 4 different sort of home prices, because we do have these home prices in the community, within the community. And so if you had a home market value that was $1,167,000 in 2024, again, assuming all of my numbers are correct here, you go down to line 17 after you add in, you take the 10% of market value, you add in the multiplier, you come up with the EAV, then you come up with the total tax rate, and then you have the exemptions in there. You would have paid $6,822 to District 204 alone. This does not include any of the other taxing districts. Park District, Library District, Fire Protection District, Elementary School District, anybody. This is just us, Lyons Township High School District 204. That's it. So, again, assuming my numbers for 2024 are correct in this document, what does that do for you in 2025? Well, there would be, from the $1,167,000, there would be an increase, a small percentage increase based on what we had in that EAV increase to $1,171,733 for your property value. That then changes 10% of your assessed value. The estimated multiplier, I'm not going to know that number for this, so this one is always a guess. So I generally will use the prior year multiplier just to kind of give us an idea. It'll be somewhere probably in that ballpark. Then we bring all those numbers forward. Again, we show that on line 31 that we would estimate that you would pay about $7,018 in property taxes to only District 204, which would be an increase of about $196 for the year. Okay. And that same formula follows all the way through the various home values that you have at the top there. So one at $1,167,000, one at $776,000, one at $470,000, and one at $182,000. And so you can follow that all the way through. But again, I don't have a verification on any of these yet, but I will, hopefully, when we come back in November. That would be the goal.
That's great. One thing I wanted to clarify, like when you're looking at line 6 on this, when you say the market value, that's how the county reflects it. It may not match, like the assessed value of a home may not match what it really might be sold for.
Yeah,
that might be something to note for all.
There are certainly differences in opinion between owners and the county in terms of what they may think their property is worth when it comes to.
Or what you could sell it for. Like,
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's
100%.
Because when you say like market value, it's not fair market value of what it might be listed for,
Right.
but it's what the county reflects it as.
This is just essentially saying, yeah, this is a number that of an assessment of a value of a home that the county might
Correct.
think is, hey, this is a reasonable dollar amount for this. Now, whether it is or it isn't, but
It's what the
it's what's going to show up on your tax bill ultimately.
Right. So that market value is what the county's showing it as,
Right.
not what it might be your market value to go list the home.
Right.
Because those may not coincide.
That's right. When it comes to property taxes, they want a lower value, but when it comes to selling, they want a higher value.
Yeah, right.
That's how it works.
Okay.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
So, that being said, and then I do finally here, on this last page, I've highlighted, this is the draft report from Cook County for the 2024 year. So, again, they have not issued the final on this yet. This document actually is where you will see that I have pulled all of my numbers going back into these other documents. This is where it starts, because every year, every subsequent year builds on that prior year. And so this is where I have all of these numbers, and so we'll see. Hopefully this is right. I'll keep following with the county. Hopefully also they're planning on getting the tax bills out sometime soon, because obviously the districts rely, as we do, heavily on those property tax dollars coming in to fund the district. Any questions on any of that information? I know it's a large amount of information. There's obviously many numbers, spreadsheets involved here. The point of tonight is just to talk through this. We will have more conversation in November. Hopefully we can bring this back, and it will be more final at that point from the county. The only changes that I would really make to this would be if the county was to come back and say, well, so the change that they made from the first rendition to the second was they added new property, more new property. So that was good for us because we actually saw an increase in our levy from 2024. So the only way that number changes is if they were to do something along those lines again. Now that could be adding or subtracting, who knows? But that pretty much would be one of the changes. I suppose they could change the EAV. I don't know about that. That would really just affect the tax rate. And then I would have to reset our levy based on what those numbers are for 2024. But again, I don't see significant changes from what's coming here. But I don't know that for sure.
A couple questions.
Yep.
You said November. We have to have this done by November because middle of December is the cutoff.
So what we do is November, we adopt a tentative levy.
Okay.
And then in December, we would adopt the final. And then we submit after the board meeting in December.
Another question, new property. What constitutes new property?
So essentially, new property is any new construction in the district. So
addition on a house is
very well
considered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. New developments. So
like timber trails years ago.
absolutely,
Was huge.
all of those as those are rolling on the tax. Yes.
I don't know if you asked the question if you were looking for, but on your 5% and above having the tax meeting, holding it anyway. I mean, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Transparency obviously is and then the last, and I won't keep going. So the triannual, just to confirm, so we are considered the south side. So all my Cubs north side friends that live in the area, just okay.
That is correct.
You can't say
County
that on a
Yeah, sorry. I had to get that in.
Yeah, no, that is. We are South Cook, according to Cook County. So we'll have that triennial and that reassessment in 2026. And really what they do in the years in between is they kind of look at, what's happening on the north side, what's happening in the city of Chicago, and then they just sort of make some adjustments here and there based on, and that's why you see those much smaller numbers in the years that are not triennials, or actually you see decreases. So we would expect probably in 2026 some sort of a large jump in the EAV.
Like you represented in the other two, those
Correct.
big numbers. Yeah.
Now really what that does though, is that just will, if we see a jump in the EAV, it's going to drop the tax rate down, is ultimately what happens. Yeah.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I'm gonna
Yes.
have to figure that out. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, President Wars. If you look on line 9 of my history there,
Yeah.
if you look at the total tax rate, right? So in 2019, you see a 2.181. Then our
Oh, wait, I think I'm
EAV.
on the wrong page, Brian. Which,
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on the history, the 6-year history.
the last page?
No. In my, is it 181?
This one was the highlights on the
181.
top.
Yeah.
181.
I'll put it up on the screen here.
All right, I'm on, I don't know why. Page 5 of the one that I'm on, okay.
181 in the packet.
Yeah, are you on the
Gotcha.
board book?
Okay.
Page 5.
You said line 9?
Yes, if you look at line 9, the total tax rate,
Yep.
you'll see in 2019, our total tax rate was 2.181. The EAV jumps way up in 2020, the tax rate drops down to 1.962. Then in the subsequent years, because it goes down, it's jumping back up.
Back up.
Then look at what happens in 2023, it drops back down to 1.897 because that EAV number jumped way up. So that's really that history and process, and we would expect that to happen in future years as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
The only question I have is do we anticipate any delays or problems with the current government shutdown?
No,
Okay.
I don't, because this is a function of the county government. So I do not, they're having problems, but those are completely
Not
separate.
anything to do with what we need?
No, completely separate from that. And as soon as the county is able to verify, and this goes back actually a few years with the county, they were talking about implementing a new software, which they did, and apparently now there are some issues again this year with it. So, like I said, typically those tax bills are out in August, usually due September or October 1st, and they're not even out yet. We're hopeful that they'll be here, that they would be out maybe end of October and due December 1st. The only problem with that is the last time this happened, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, then they pushed back the first collection in the spring. So usually those are due about March 1st, and I think they kicked that one back to April or May 1st, one of those two. So hopefully we're not going down that road again, but it's possible.
It is, sounds like it.
Yeah. And again, that being our largest revenue source, and really the biggest issue with it right now is the fact that when we don't have those dollars, we're not investing them.
Right.
And so we're actually losing revenue on the interest income side because we don't have the money that we could invest, and so we're actually losing interest income on those dollars right now. Different story for a different day.
Yeah. All right.
He mentioned the truth and taxation hearing. The other thing we do, just for new board members, in December when we go through this process, we have a document, we call it the tax levy FAQ, that we post on our website. And it explains what a tax levy is and has all the information. That way any community member can dig as deep as they want to into the process.
It's on the website now, but I'll update it for this year. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
A lot of work went into that, so thank you.
Welcome.
And again, to my non-finance brain, made a lot of sense to me.
It always does.
That's my goal.
It does.
It makes the most sense after 5 years. It's like, I feel like I'm getting
That's what it takes. That's the line, 5 years?
I think this is levy number 25 for me, so yeah.
So it better make sense.
Yeah. Well, it mostly does still at this point,
There's always a little surprise.
Yeah.
Or something that changes, but we get most of it.
Very good. Well, thank you again. We'll look forward to hearing back on this in November. All right, so our next agenda item is board discussion enhancing connections with the LTHS community. So in our board book, we'll find a summary of our discussion from our last committee, the whole meeting regarding our ongoing efforts to engage in our community. While a great deal of time and energy has already been devoted to this work, we remain committed to doing even more to ensure that all stakeholders feel welcome, supported, and heard. With that in mind, we're proposing to hold our Quarter 2 community chat on Tuesday, October 28th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at our South Campus Library or possibly our new music spaces, as our cafeteria unfortunately will not be ready just yet. But we're also excited to announce a new consolidated format, a listening session focused with structured discussion questions and prompts designed to encourage meaningful and focused dialogue. This event would include targeted interventions, tote bag giveaways, let me highlight that, light refreshments, and participation from our student leaders to help welcome attendees. So the question, I guess, to our board is there anything that we've overlooked or any additional feedback you'd like to share, or are we feeling comfortable about that being our next steps?
The only thing I would say is the targeted invitations. I feel like when we say targeted, we want to invite it to all.
Everybody, yeah.
Because I think all are encouraged, but I just read this that that's at the exclusion of others to be targeted.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a way that we can.
I mean, yeah, we could, I guess it depends on what the board wants to do. Just a quick heads up too, like after the last discussion, Marilyn and I sat down and we kind of tried to capture in this memo what the board talked about, and that's how that proposal came together. But we could send out a communication to everyone, or we could do what we normally do, post on the website and everyone's welcome, or we could add the targeted piece into it and specifically invite.
A special invitation or something.
I don't want to say special, because I think that's.
It's not different, but.
It's not different, but maybe they get to it because they are part of the LT Community Advisory Committee. They get an email.
They're going to get an invitation. They're going to get a separate
two
invitation.
Separate. It's an addition.
Yeah.
I think the intentional outreaching to people is what I think is the essence of what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And those personal invitations are really helpful.
So, and then when you say a personal invitation, is it us as the board member calling, or is it like an email? I mean, like, I'd like to set parameters around that, because that would be a big, when you say, because you don't want to go where only 10 people get a phone call to come.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's up to you guys. We could do one of several things. I could work with our team to create a list, and we could reach out to them, phone call. We could send an email to the people that we're talking to, the groups that we're talking about.
Or a text.
It's really comfort. Yeah, I'm sure we could figure that out. Yeah, I mean, it's a comfort level, whatever you guys are.
There's varied research on text messaging, and there's a lot of feedback from community members, not just this community, but in general, that texting is kind of overreaching. Privacy concerns are huge. So,
well, don't we sign up I would say when we register, don't you elect to get a text?
Yeah, but I don't know that you elect to get certain texts.
Okay.
It's probably more
how do we
emergency.
communicate with these specific groups anyway? I mean, like, is there a preferred format that they're comfortable with, or that they're used to receiving?
I mean, I would compare this to like the Sankofa event, and when you target invitations for that event, is it email and phone calls, or just emails?
It is. I think it's how you're outreaching. So I feel like a lot of us have a network, even some of our student groups, of like how can you invite their families, just because we're all inundated with so much information. I think sometimes when we're connecting with smaller groups, it just can penetrate that a little bit better. So even if you have a message and you want to share it with different groups here to push out through their networks, it will reach some other people that you may be missing.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to be targeted at the exclusion of the whole community.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's.
So we can do what we normally do with these chats, which is website, social media posts, where everyone's welcome, and that's very clear.
Okay.
But then we could take it the next step and reach out to groups. And the groups that were listed on there, we could add more if the board has other ideas, but those were just a list of the groups that we thought we would start with. But again, open for ideas.
How are we doing that? I mean, are we as board members calling? I guess that's my question when you're saying you're doing a special invite.
Well, I think we talked about just email.
Just email, okay.
Yeah.
Because you were saying you would do.
I have, for example, an email list for people who have attended, and they've said, I would love to hear from you. So then, then I would say, here's an invitation. So they might read the same invitation that you've already sent, but because it's
From you, because you made a personal connection.
Because you would do it personally. Got it,
Well,
okay.
and I think probably within the internal leadership team, everybody, probably there's individuals here at the table and even beyond that have the direct connections to these different groups too. So they would probably be the ones who could like spearhead that and make that additional connection.
And I think that's the point.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not at the exclusion, because you want it to be
Everyone
a
could,
full.
anyone could come.
Yeah,
Anyone could
and is the idea for it to be like an open house style, or is it a hard, you should be there at 6:30 and it goes till 8, or?
I mean, that's
how
the
are
trick,
we,
right? Like, they've typically been more conversational, open-ended, where you come at 6:30, you can come at 8.
Yeah.
I think because of the board's desire to do this in a little more enhanced way, I would recommend that there's something at the beginning from board president or a board member, maybe sharing 10 minutes of what the board has been prioritizing, some of the conversations that happen. Just to, I guess, to put a little more structure to it than just the open-ended conversation.
I would love that, because I think like having been at many community chats,
Right.
it's really hard when there's not a structure to it. I feel like some people have just sat there and not known what to say. So like if you give some direction, that might be
You could do
really
like a
helpful.
short presentation at the beginning, and then we could develop maybe a few question prompts where people can, talk through or sit at a table and kind of get feedback on, and then maybe leave some time at the end for more open-ended questions or items that they want to talk
Or
about.
like a mingle like we've done in the past.
Yeah, do that too.
I mean, that was like when we go back to our first community chat, that was a packed house.
That was a packed house.
So we kind of like, I know there were 2 board members there, which I would anticipate there'd be 2 board
We'd have
members
to
there.
have 2, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and you kind of would be, you had one corner of the room, we kind of like divide it, where
Right,
it was a
right.
natural division.
It was, yeah.
Which I think was a very good comfort level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because if you have, hopefully we have a ton of people here. You also don't want to put it in a position where someone has asked a question in front of somebody that there's more of a
Right.
more intimate setting. I would suggest to ask that question for someone that they would feel comfortable to ask that of.
Yeah.
Does that make?
Yeah.
Do we think the music space will be available?
We could definitely, I mean, it's already ready. So we actually had an LTCAC meeting in there a couple weeks ago.
Oh, it's just so-
Cafeteria, probably not. It's close,
Yeah, but.
but
no,
that we could
I
have it
think
in the
the
music space. I agree.
And it was super fun. I mean, I remember we get a little tour of it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was awesome, because Sean and I were there as the board reps for it.
Definitely highlight that as part of the announcement. Come and check out this.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
Music space.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I love how it's right there by the door to greet people,
Exactly.
Yeah.
where it's,
Yep.
it was really nice.
Anything else that we should think about? I think we can start planning this and at least
Yeah.
getting the social media stuff teed up and working on our lists, and
It'll be here before.
3 weeks
we know
away, so
Yeah.
it's coming quickly.
That's right, it is only 3 weeks.
Should we discuss then or decide who the 2 members would be? I mean, I'm assuming Tim is one. Is there somebody else that wants to throw their hat in the ring? Do we need to decide that, or?
Yeah, like somebody volunteers based on that.
I'm fine to come, I don't have anything.
Maybe look at your calendars and see who's interested,
Yeah,
and then
I'm
we
able to
can
do it.
talk as we get closer. That works.
I love it.
Thanks for putting it together.
Yeah. It's wonderful. All right, now is time for our second opportunity for audience members to give comments or feedback to the Board of Education, and we do not have anybody else set up, so great. So at this point, we can dismiss our central leadership
we're gonna
team.
pause
We're
and you
going
guys
to start working on our ASBA,
Adoptions of the highest.
unless you really want to stay.
It's my favorite part, I love it.
Thank you all for your work tonight. Thank you.
So we'll just give them a second
Thanks,
to
guys.
leave. We'll keep the live stream audio and video going, so just keep that in mind. Just take a quick pause and then we'll move on. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, thank you.
I don't know that this will take too long. so
No, thank you.
Break. It's 8 o'clock, so.
Thank you.
Hey, Greg. Hey, Greg.
Still going.
And we're back.
All right, we are back. So our next agenda item is the Illinois Association of School Boards resolution review. The IASBA resolution process provides Board of Education throughout the state an opportunity to participate in the advocacy process, with the Illinois Association of School Boards. The IASBA Delegate Assembly will take place on Saturday, November 22nd, 2025, and will involve one board member voting on a variety of resolutions on behalf of the Board of Education. This year's delegate assembly representative for our board is Jill Beta-Daniels. Thank you, Jill. Our board will now discuss each of these resolutions and take a straw poll. We will begin with constitutional amendments. Seeing as we've all had a chance to review these, does anybody have any questions or concerns with IASBA's recommendations to adopt the constitutional amendments? And again, those are the ones where are really the, not necessarily, it is not a resolution per se, more the ins and outs of the committee. So any thoughts or questions on that?
Yeah, so that was a committee that worked over a period of time to review all the constitutional language, and they're essentially making recommendations to change or to amend the language as outlined in each of those. It's actually the first time that I can remember that they've brought something like this forward. Usually it's just the resolutions that the board talks through, but this is something articles a little bit different.
Yeah.
And obviously, they all come with a recommendation to adopt because, again, there's been a committee that's worked on these. So,
yeah.
My recommendation to Tim was just kind of chunk them into one and say, are there any that you don't want to take their recommendation and pull off for further discussion?
Thanks.
It's very similar, like policy work, right? When we look at press, there's just a lot of red line, and again, there was a group that met a lot to talk about this.
And I'll start us off. I don't have any. My straw poll vote is to accept them or adopt them. Yeah, I don't. Any other?
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
All right. We'll move on then to our resolution related to school bus safety funding that IASBA recommends adopting. And that's in our pamphlet here, talking about, I think, some equity issues with funding, especially for smaller districts and having to cover the cost of, yet again, another unfunded mandate that the state has put forward. So they're recommending some relief in that and making a recommendation to adopt.
Yep. And specific to the addition of seatbelts on school buses, which ISB sees as an unfunded mandate, so this would advocate to attach funding to that, so school districts could actually afford to put seatbelts on buses.
So I just have a question about that. Like, would this only be for schools that have their own buses?
Yeah, their own fleet.
Right.
Yeah, how do we?
Yeah, it probably would.
How do we know if the school bus
Yeah,
we're
because
using?
they would basically be advocating for the General Assembly to allocate funding to schools.
If they have their own fleet,
If they have their own, yeah.
not if you're using like for student.
Right.
And just for students.
And I would imagine that the companies that provide busing would also advocate to get some of that funding through grants or something.
Because it has to be done by 2031. It does talk about vendors showing quotes to add belts anywhere from $7,000 to $18,000 per bus. So I'm assuming that funding would also help with some of our bills.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I read it that way. Really. You're saying that you would think that funding would help with some of our buses, but if it's not our fleet?
Not our buses, the vendors. So it talks about the district rationale.
I read it as the current vendors being those to install them aftermarket.
Yeah, but they're not just going to swallow those costs. They're going to push those costs onto school districts.
Right. So how is it helping us, though? Because, they're outside.
Or what is the cost to us to do that?
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't specifically say this in the resolution, but right now what it says is that this would essentially let school districts tap into that. But this would be a cost for student and the bus companies. So they're going to either pass that on, or they're going to figure out a way to tap into this funding as well.
Or both.
Or both.
I mean, so
or
it could,
split.
I mean, just for something for us to consider, like the cost of the school buses going up and up. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
safety is first.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, but just something for us on the long term to look at, because I don't even, how many, I'm embarrassed to even ask this question, how many buses?
Routes do we have?
We have about 40.
So that could be a significant.
35 to 40.
Just something to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we want our buses to be as safe as could be, but maybe that's a question we,
Well,
I don't
but
know where our
remember,
buses
this
are.
resolution is just saying the General Assembly should allocate money towards it.
right.
So I would just
The
keep kind
logistics
of,
of that
But-
would get
but
worked out in the...
That they're going to allocate the money to districts who have their own buses.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of relevant at this point for us, but this could push. We've probably seen an increase because those school buses have to be retrofitted.
I would say, though, think about it this way. Would you rather the General Assembly allocate money to this at all or not at all?
I mean, no, absolutely.
I think, look at it.
That's a good
No,
way,
that's
yeah.
totally
Right.
valid.
I'm good for that. Okay, we're gonna put it that way. I'm good.
Sorry, it just opens up a can of worms. Also,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, sometimes when I think about it, I guess I think I thought that we had seatbelts. Because I feel like to wait until 2031 to make the school buses have seatbelts, when we've all been wearing seatbelts in cars since how long? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the
Yep.
priorities there?
And just, I think everyone knows this, but this is simply a resolution that gives the ISB direction to advocate.
Yeah.
It's not binding. It doesn't mean legislation is going to happen or anything. It's just for,
And a lot of those details and who gets funding and who doesn't, right, that's
Yeah.
all worked out by our legislators. We're just
Yeah.
advocating on behalf of, yet again, trying to stop unfunded mandates from continuing to happen.
But to that point, could we possibly ask the question of there being an amendment to this resolution to be inclusive of
Not
school
with this
districts that don't
process
have-
necessarily.
Oh, no, 'cause
However,
either
we can.
get or no. Okay.
And we've talked about this
Yeah.
before, and I was actually just talking with Brian about it before. We've talked about pushing forward our own resolution. That's something that we can consider that could entail something like this. I will tell you, I would love to put some kind of resolution for mental health days not counting against our chronic absenteeism. That's something that we could propose. We could talk about other ideas. There's a whole lot of, again, I think that anyway. So yes, there are opportunities for us
Got it.
to look at that in the spring.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
a
it's-
proponent of us presenting something for
Yeah.
ever. I mean, I
I
think
know,
it's great.
I
I'd
was
love to
telling
see
Tim
us-
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'd love to see us be proactive to do such a thing, because,
Right.
to do that, because why not?
Why not?
And for that process, I don't know the exact deadlines, but usually it's like late summer, you have to have those in, because then the resolutions committee then looks at all the resolutions that were presented, and then we get the packet like mid to late September.
Yeah.
So that's something, if you guys talk through that, like in the spring, come up with some ideas on what you'd like to propose.
Yeah.
Then we could do the work over the summer to get them submitted. But going back to Joy's point, like, I think let's say as a board, you guys said, we don't like this resolution, we want it to include this, or this. It would really just be putting up a new resolution on the ballot for next year. Because the two options here are, this is going to be on a consent agenda at the III conference in November, and the option is you either vote to adopt or you vote to pull it off. And if you vote to pull it off, then it gets put up for another vote to see if it's actually up for discussion. And with the do adopt recommendation, the likelihood of the membership voting to have further discussion on it is probably pretty minuscule.
And light on
It's a very
resolutions this year. It
official,
is
as Jill can
interesting.
attest to, it's a
Yeah.
I
very
really much
official
enjoyed it. I'm gonna tell you,
like,
right up my alley.
democratic process.
Yeah.
I mean, they have they go through Robert's Rules of Order, and there's,
They did.
Like arming teachers.
200
or
people in there?
Funding
Yeah.
towards security,
Yeah.
certain types of security
Yep.
measures and stuff. So we had some that
Yeah.
yeah,
didn't make it.
right.
Didn't make it through the process. But also, we've never had just one
Right.
resolution.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
anticlimactic. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to be the fastest one ever. When did we for hours last year?
it was shocking. Like, I must say, it was still like I don't know, like the cell phone.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one
that
that
was
I'm
came
still
out.
like a little bit like taken back by that. I mean, it's been a year, it's been a hot sec, but I'm still like.
Well, this
We are
year
one of the
they
only
put it up for
states
like
that
20
don't do
minutes.
it. That's
Right.
interesting.
What'd you say?
There's only 4 states, I think, in the country that don't have some kind of cell phone restriction
I know, we can't go back to that right now.
I'm
so
just throwing that out there.
Just kind of close the loop on this, making sure
Yes.
that it
Yeah,
sounds
so
like
straw
everyone's
poll,
in.
we're all good with the
Take the recommendations of the resolutions
Yes.
committee.
Yep.
Joe will be the delegate rep at the meeting and cast the vote.
Get my little,
That's right. You're gonna make us proud. Make us proud. All
come on,
right.
watch it if you like.
Yeah, I did.
But
It's
don't go
fun.
anywhere near her or you'll
Yeah.
get in trouble.
You gotta stay in the
Don't
back.
talk to me,
You
don't
gotta
make
stay in
eye
the back.
contact with me. Just look
I
at
did
me
not
from
know
behind.
I went up and tried to say something to you, and everybody was like,
No, I was like, what? It's really official.
yeah.
You know? That's the glass.
Yeah.
Like a yellow crime scene tape. You do not cross. Caution.
All right, I'm closing us up. All
Okay, do it.
right, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Have a great night. Well done.
you.
Good week.
Good meeting. Good week.